Ladies and gents, the question of the day is why, Nick, why should I be using Google search ads? Why? Well, maybe you shouldn't. Okay, maybe it's not the place for you. A lot of businesses shouldn't. A lot of times it is too saturated. A lot of times it is too expensive to acquire a client. But for many of you, it's a minimum. You should be there. And I want you to think of the old days. Marketing hasn't changed all that much. If you remember the old days, once per year, the Yellow Page company came around and threw this gigantic book on your doorstep of all the companies in your area that are offering all their services, right? If you needed a plumber, you needed a drain cleaner, you needed an electrician, you needed a photographer, a cameraman, a pizza shop, a lawyer, it didn't matter. Let's say you couldn't get a referral. What would you do? You grab the Yellow Pages. You'd go to the page, it was all sorted in alphabetical order. You went to the P's for plumber, you opened up that page, you looked through the ads of all the different plumbers and you called one of them. A lot of times it was the one with the biggest, baddest ad, right? Maybe they had a really good headline or some discount. Well, that always existed. Okay, not everybody found somebody through referral. There were always those token few people that just used the Yellow Pages for everything. They relied on it. And I would say Google has become the modern day Yellow Pages, okay? And they're not always gonna show your business for free. Just because you have a website, just because you've asked Google to crawl it, doesn't mean Google's gonna show it to anybody. Okay, a lot of times they really won't. You know, getting organic rankings is very difficult, although it's very doable. But people are gonna go into Google and they're gonna search for those services in the same way they used to search for those services back in the day when we were kids, us older people, in the Yellow Pages. And that's why you wanna be there, because there's a segment of the marketplace that is only in Google right now, where they will search Google, they will search Bing for almost everything in their life. They're not asking their neighbor for that referral. And if you're not in front of them with an ad, if you're not in front of them with a Google My Business listing, if you're in the services and you're not in front of them with an LSA or local service ad, you're simply missing that business. Think about this. Let's say you can invest $1 into a Google ad, and that dollar will produce $2 for you in the next week because you got a customer out of it. You're net positive $1. That dollar is not a dollar you would have captured through your referral business because that marketplace is not asking for referrals. They're in Google. So if you're not there, you're simply missing the boat. There are millions upon millions of searches for local services. There are millions and millions of searches for local businesses, and Google will always prioritize those businesses that are willing to pay for an ad in the search. If you run a Google search right now, okay, for anything, I don't care what it is, what you're always gonna find is those first 3 or 4 spots in Google, they're always gonna have a little ad next to the headline, okay? Or in the description. And what they're telling you is that's an advertisement. Most people don't notice it. So typically you're gonna see ads at the top. People are most likely to click on that ad and click on the phone number from that ad. The next thing you're gonna find is Google My Business listings. Those are free, but they're not number 1. It's the second thing Google is showing. And then below that, you're gonna see the organic ranking. So for local businesses, it's not a thing anymore, okay? So that's a big reason you wanna be using Google, because if you're not, you're simply missing that boat. Also, if you're just brand new into digital marketing, you wanna think of the psychology of people, okay? There are certain businesses, like owning a marketing agency, where you can build an audience, right? And every so often, that audience, from giving them free tips and advice, will call on you and ask you for some sort of free quote for your services. You'd become a trusted authority. Other businesses don't really have audiences. You're in the drain cleaning business. Most likely, someone's not going to be following a drain cleaning company on Instagram. They're not going to have an audience that they can tap into here and there and pull clients out of it. It's just different dynamics. So a lot of businesses where people are fixers, service businesses, you know, you got a broken pipe, it's an emergency, you're Googling it. You got a clogged drain, you're going into Google. You need an attorney for a specific type of lawsuit defense, you're going into Google. You might ask for a referral, but most importantly, you're going into Google. It's more of an event. So service businesses tend to thrive inside of Google. It's a money machine. In certain markets, they thrive so much that it's become too expensive and it's become sometimes saturated. That does happen. And that's where it takes kind of a sophisticated analysis of that marketplace inside of Google to see if it might even be worth it for you to advertise there. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes the cost to acquire those clients drills so much into your margin that there's just not anything there, or you need to be such a big volume business to make sense of the numbers or the higher cost to acquire a client. But really, that's why you want to be in Google, guys, okay? That's why you want to be paying for search ads, because you're going to show up at the top. Also, the average conversion rate, I'll give you a little statistic. The average conversion rate, okay, conversion, by the way, for those of you that don't know, it's someone that's taken action on your site. They've called you, they filled in a form, they've downloaded an ebook, they've taken an action on the site that is significant to your business. On average, is 25% higher on the visitor that's coming to you through Google ad versus something that's coming to you from organic traffic. Why is that? Someone that's clicking on a Google ad, they didn't even think, they saw the headline at the top and they clicked on it. There's a sense of urgency there. Again, we have to think of the psychology of the people that are Googling, okay? There's a sense of urgency there versus the person that skips the ads, they skip the Google My Business listings, they head down towards the bottom of Google and they're more looking for information. They might be do-it-yourselfers. They're not necessarily looking to hire somebody, but they're looking for information and data and they're doing research. That's another thing. Also, just to compare search advertising to social media advertising. So I get this a lot. Let's run ads in Facebook. Let's run ads in Snapchat. Let's run ads in LinkedIn. I heard the cost to get a lead from these platforms is way, way cheaper than Google. I would always say, even with the lower cost per lead, your number one platform, or the number one platform you should be, if there were a bunch of checkboxes that you should be checking off, the first test should always be Google, the first thing you explore. And the reason for that is disruptive advertising through the social media platforms. You don't have that urgency, that psychology built in to people that are inquiring on those ads. They're not looking for what you have to offer. You just happen to get in front of your target audience and they probably think they might need what you have to offer. But again, the urgency isn't built in. And that's why Google can charge a premium. They've built in urgency into their platform by being in front of people that are searching. And that's why it's so valuable. That's why the cost to acquire a client there is always going to be considerably higher than social media. The other big reason is LTV. A lot of people, they're consumed with the cost per click. Let's throw that out the window for a second. Then they become consumed with, they leave the clicks and they get consumed with the cost per acquisition. How much does it cost for me to acquire a client? I want you to throw that out the window for a second as well, okay? And I want you to think of the lifetime value of somebody that's more motivated. Time and time again, we create campaigns in all of these different platforms for a client, or we get brought in to optimize all these different platforms. And the first thing people will tell us is, Nick, I'm paying way too much for these Google leads, or I'm paying way too much to get clients in Google. And I tell them immediately, what's your LTV on that client? And they don't know. What's your lifetime value on your Facebook clients? I'm not sure. What is it on referral clients? Okay, and this is the big mistake. And what we do is we do a deeper dive into their analytics. We go into their cash register and we start analyzing of these platforms, of these campaigns, of these sources, and we can drill it down to keyword a lot of times. Where does the lifetime value fall for each of these categories? And I would say the lifetime value on a referral is always going to be considerably higher than all lead generation that you're doing from anything else. So that's always going to be number one. Number two is always going to be Google and Bing search campaigns. And the reason for that is we have that built-in urgency. We have a higher likelihood to stick with whatever it is that we're selling. If you have a reoccurring business model, you need people to stick to whatever subscription system you have, there's a higher likelihood they're gonna stick with it. Also, people tend to trust Google and Bing. They tend to trust the search engines more. It's more of a trusted authority than social media. By order of lifetime value, we see referrals number one, search campaigns number two, social media, or as I like to call it, disruptive advertising number three, time and time again. And what we find when we do this analysis, even though our cost per acquisition could be 30-40% higher on a Google lead, the lifetime value could be 30, 40, 50, 100% higher than a social media client. So what does that tell us? We're paying a little bit more, but we're getting so much more value. And by the way, that is a reason whenever we do a marketing deep dive, we don't just sign someone up for a specific platform. We actually go top down by lifetime value and augment, number one, clients' referral marketing by including a more robust social media and gratitude system, okay, maybe an email system. Then we focus on the search engines. Then we focus on social media ads. And we do this because what we find is the businesses become that much more profitable by focusing on LTV versus focusing on cost per acquisition or focusing on, the cost per click. That's almost a ridiculous metric at this point. It just doesn't make sense. So if you're wondering why you should be running Google Ads, I hope this was able to clarify that question, especially if you're a service-based business, guys. It's the no-brainer of the century. If you disagree with anything, comment below. Give me a thumbs down if you disagree, guys. If you agree, give me a thumbs up. Like and share this with other business owners that you think could benefit from our channel. Please hit the follow button if you're on Instagram. Hit the follow button if you are on TikTok, if you're on Facebook, and share with other business owners. And again, if you don't agree with this, comment below. Or if I'm missing something, if there's something that I just I forgot to answer here, or added to my answer here, throw it in the comments below. Beat me up, guys. Challenge me. Take me to the bank every single time. This is Nick with Real Talk, and have a great day.